What's up, y'all? How you doing? It's 10-3 time at Tennessee. How you doing? I hope you're well. I hope everything in your life is going well. Hope you had a really nice weekend. Hope you had a much better Sunday night than I did dealing with rodents at the house. We'll talk about that probably just a little bit later, although we got a lot to get to on today's 10-3. And to do that, we got Miss Ainsley there in the back, and we got Mr. Elijah Nixon right up here. Elijah, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, man, I'm doing good, man. It's that time of the year that's beautiful. We got NFL playoffs starting, huh? It's that time. It's that time. My Rams better go all the way. Beautiful Monday. You ever had something that you wanted to get back, but they won't let you have back? For instance,
Youth.
You went too far there.
That was just the first thing off the top of my head was I would like to not be old. That's just off the top of my head. If you're talking like material goods, I would say, I don't know. Like there's a couple of old Adidas track jackets that I really liked, but then I don't think they make them anymore. And so, the ones I got are a little bit old. And so, you know what I mean? Like they're faded, and I'd like to have those back, but I don't think maybe they'll do a re-release, but that's about off the top of my head. But yeah, most importantly, youth.
Speaking of jackets, Allison, our producer, she has my lucky jacket that she has on right now. She won't give that back. And then Lindsay has a globe on her desk that was gifted from Allison, but was really supposed to be gifted to me. Can't even get that back either.
Wait, so was it ever gifted to you and then taken from you, or was it just gifted to the wrong person up front?
It was gifted to the wrong person up front. Didn't even have her name on it.
Wow. Just took it?
Just took it.
She does a lot of things here. She's an important part of the process. I don't know if we can afford to anger her, but we'll try. We'll try not to, because there's enough people already in this town that are angry right now after the Tennessee men's basketball team went down rather ignominiously, you might say, if you were using fancy words, a little bit I don't want to say embarrassingly, but a little meekly, a little disappointingly, given the way that things went down there at Arkansas over the weekend, 86-75. And we will talk about the Lady Vols too. They had a nice weekend. They had a nice week actually. Had a couple games they should win, and they did win them to stay where they are in league play. And they bumped up a little bit to 20, I think, in the AP poll as it was released today. Talasia Cooper, Janiah Barker, I think, had 35 combined points the other day, and they together shot a better percentage from the field than the Tennessee men on Saturday shot from the free throw line in an 86-75 loss at Arkansas. And that's a game, straight going into it. Right going into it. Tennessee won its most recent game in Bud Walton, but historically, that was just a bad Arkansas team. Historically, that is a very tough place to play. It's one of the better arenas in the country, especially when that team's pretty good, as you would think, as John Calipari's been there for a couple of years now, gotten some more of his guys in there, and that's a good team. And they got a freshman guard who he's going to play this game for a long time. Young Mr. Acuff is the SEC, probably the SEC Freshman of the Year right now if the season ended, and then would have a shout at being SEC Player of the Year the way that he's been playing. But still going into that, and I'll be honest, Tennessee was favored by 1.5 points. I didn't like that. I didn't understand that. And after the Music City Bowl and now this, I've gotten my pick swag back for I had like a 4 or 5 week stretch there, Elijah, where we talked about it quite a bit. Normally, what's a pretty good pick accuracy? It went down the toilet. For like a month, it was just bad in every sport for Tennessee. And
before we get to the nitty gritty, I told Emily I'm gonna have to do this. I got to get you some for show you right on. So for show you right ons are some shades that I usually wear when I'm right.
Ooh.
Yeah, I got him in the house. I should have just brought him in and let you wear it because you was right about the Illinois game. And as you can see, you were right about the Tennessee and Arkansas game as well. So you got to get your for show you right ons.
I'll have to do that, and then I'll have to bump up the font size on the iPad over here, and on my notepad I'll have to write larger because I am basically blind without a prescription, either glasses or contacts. I think it's like past 2,500 now. I think what my vision is. It's bad, and it's always been bad, but it's getting bad. But yes, I did not like Tennessee being a favorite in that game. Arkansas's not great, but Tennessee got some stuff to prove. I think it could be better by the end of the year, but right now, I think a good basketball team should be a good basketball team, but a little bit erratic. And soft isn't the right word. That's not the right word at all, but just not polished right now, not as mentally maybe tough as you would like to be. And I think that's bearing out in the free throw shooting. And you go to Arkansas, and you're one of the best offensive rebounding teams in the country, and they do a legitimately great job keeping you off the offensive glass for most of the game. And you shoot less than 50% from the free throw line for most of the game, and you're not shooting great from behind the arc either. You put all that together, that game still had, I believe, 10 ties or 11 ties, 10 lead changes, or whatever it was. And for 32 minutes, 31, 32 minutes, that's going back and forth. It's anybody's game. Tennessee's getting in its own way, but when it's not getting in its own way, it's making some plays, playing tough. And then Arkansas goes on an 11-0 run midway through the second half. Tennessee's basically done at that point. And the free throw shooting thing is a problem. And in a minute, we'll get to Rick Barnes saying one thing Saturday and then another thing this morning when you and the rest of the gang were over there. I don't know. I think he was maybe more correct Saturday than Monday, but it's interesting for Rick Barnes. We'll play him in a little bit here, but on Saturday he talked about how big of a problem it was and that it was infecting everything to the point where it's impacting the plays that he'll call in a game. Because you want to get the ball to certain guys. This is a physical team built around a lot of those big guys, and you want them attacking the rim, getting fouled. But can you do that when they're not making free throws? Can you call as many ISO type stuff or pick and roll type stuff for Nate Ament when he's really good at getting to the free throw line, but sometimes he ain't making the free throws? And so then he comes around Monday, Rick Barnes does, and says something different. But I think if you're shooting free throws at this clip, you're not going to win hardly anywhere on the road in this league, and you're going to have a hard time winning some games at home in this league shooting like that.
You know, it's funny that you say that because, honestly, I know exactly what you're talking about. I guess we'll wait for the sound, what he said today. But I looked at it as he was just turning the page. I think that it was like, you know, because he was absolutely right what you said on Saturday. Because, you know, most times when you go away in those arenas, you don't expect to have that many foul calls because you just expect home cooking, and you know
they got a fair road whistle.
They got a fair whistle that out there. So they wasn't. I don't know if they wasn't expecting it, but you don't usually do. And to get that fair whistle, I just think that when he said that this morning, I think he was just turning the page. I think he was just saying, "Hey, you know what? Just forget about the free throws. I mean, I know that was a problem, but there's other things that we could have executed on. Free throws was the biggest thing on Saturday because that was to most people that just watched the game, that's what they saw. But when you got to dive into the film, which they said they watched 3 hours of, I think he was like, it's probably hinting at it's more problems than just the free throws. But he just said it in a way where, you know, it's kind of a head scratcher, and I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think, listen, I've said this all the time. Between me and Rick Barnes, there's going to be one of us in the Hall of Fame. It's not me, right? Like, so I'm not. I will never sit here and pretend that I know more about basketball than Rick Barnes. I'm not going to suggest I know football more than Josh Heupel either. I'm not going to suggest I know hoops more than Kim Caldwell or baseball more than Josh Elander or softball more than Karen Wick. I don't. But I just think when you're shooting free throws like this at times, it is like a virus that gets in there and impacts every single thing that you do on both ends of the floor. When you are shooting for most of the game below 50%. And they had to make their last four to finish 12 of 23, which is barely better than 50%. And I guess before that, they were 8 of 19, which is it's unconscionable. That's just, it's embarrassing. Honestly, I don't like to use that word. It's embarrassing when it's like that. But when you are shooting that poorly from the free throw line and your opponent is just making everything at 32 of 35, whatever it was a lot and not a lot of misses. And that led after the game on Saturday for Rick Barnes to come out and say what we're going to play here in just a minute. Ainsley, do we have that queued up, Rick Barnes on Saturday? Here's what Tennessee basketball coach Rick Barnes said Saturday right after the game about the free throw shooting.
Well, we're going to be that kind of team. Like I told the team after the game, we're going to struggle all year. You know, when you have a chance to get back in the game, you can't make them. When you got a chance to stretch it out, you can't make them. And I don't think we have a guy on the team that doesn't think he can make them, but they're going to have to make it when the light's wrong. And but you know, that's It just puts so much more pressure on everything that you do, puts pressure on your defense. You want to run some things, but then you start thinking, well, if they get fouled, are they going to make the free throws? Guys that you want to be aggressive, pick up fouls and don't make free throws. It really just continues to put pressure on every other part of the game.
So that's Rick Barnes immediately after the game on Saturday. And what's interesting to me is, like, normally, and you'll see this a lot of times, coaches or players after a game, they'll say one thing, and then they'll come back a day or two later after watching film and say, nah, it wasn't as bad as I thought, or it wasn't as good as I thought. There was this, there was that. I would not have thought in this case, though, that the opinion would have changed, because you're talking about a concrete bit of information, which is you're shooting 12 of 23 from the free throw line, including multiple front-end 1-and-1 misses. So that's basically 2 missed points, not 1. And that's the kind of concrete number that doesn't change a couple days later, right? It's not like, the ball screen coverage was better or worse than I thought it was, or, in football, maybe we didn't pick up a couple blitzes that I thought we had picked up and we really hadn't, and that led the quarterback to some problems, or the receiver, stepped the wrong way on the route here and that threw off the whole thing. All these things can happen, right? But this is from Monday morning when Elijah and the rest of the gang were down there talking to Rick Barnes before the practice. And you'll have to forgive his voice because he's got a little bit of that. Rick gets that bug in his throat this time of year sometimes, as we all do. I had about 2 weeks of it. Looks like he's gone into it again. But try to disregard the way you're hearing it and actually just listen to what you're hearing, because you'll hear some very different words here from Rick Barnes from this morning.
Well, it's obvious after a game like Arkansas, people look at the free throws, but the free throws is not what cost us that game. We didn't do the details, the things that you have to do to win games. We didn't have ball pressure. We didn't follow our scouting report, all those type things. We didn't do any of it. And when you don't do it, you don't deserve to win. And when you do win, games like that, it can give you a false sense of where you are. And that's what was disappointing, that we just didn't really do what we had talked about. But to answer your question, what was your question again about sustaining it?
No, is it maybe unsurprising that it's taking a young team, a new team?
No, I don't think that. I think what I said earlier, we thought we'd be able to get more from our older players.
Yeah, and what's interesting to me about that, Elijah, is, Rick Barnes, and again, it's not fair to do kind of I'm not trying to do like a Daily Show gotcha kind of thing, right? Where, you said this and then you said that. But I did laugh a little bit when Rick said that, people are sitting here saying the free throws were the difference in the game. Yeah, bro, you were one of the people who said it on Saturday. It was literally what you said. But, I think I'm not trying to be unfair. I do think that I understand what he's getting at there, which is that that's obviously a big part of the problem, but it's the sort of general lack of attention to details in scouting reports that's bothering him.
That's what I think it is too. I like I said, I think he worded it the wrong way in the sense of because it is a problem, but I think he was just saying it's other things that led to us not winning the game besides the free throws. The free throws was like the eye-popping thing because at the moment, that's all we see. It's like, you go back and watch film and you're like, well, we didn't do this right, we didn't do this right, we didn't do this right, and that's what I think he was getting at. Like, hey, the free throws, yeah, that's the obvious thing, but we did a lot of things that we had called and we scouted this whole week that we didn't get a chance to attack. So, like I said, I see both sides of it, but again, Rick Barnes, by far, is an intellectual guy. He knows what he's doing, especially with those guys. And what I really like about him, I know he said he wanted a lot of production from his young guys. From the older guys. But sometimes if a young group can carry you, let them carry you because they're giving you a lot of production coming off the bench or whether they're starting. And I like what I see because, again, I think college basketball is a young person's game because think about it. A Cuff is a freshman. The kid from BYU is a freshman. The Boozers guys are freshmen. So it's like...
And they look 25.
Yeah.
And play 27.
So it's like, the freshmen actually matter to me in college basketball more than any other sport there is collegiately. So I think that, let the young guys carry you if they have to.
Well, and don't think we're not going to talk about Amari Evans because we absolutely are. It was a bad day for Tennessee, full stop, but there were some some good in there too. And Nate Ament struggled obviously from the line, and we'll talk about that. There's some stuff he's just got to do better, but I think he can, and I think at some point he will. And that's not a unanimous opinion at this point, but it still is my opinion. And so we will talk about all that stuff. But what's interesting to me, when you talk about free throw shooting, it's a bit, there are parts of it that can be a bit of a misnomer because people will say, and they're not wrong, I can go in my backyard right now, bounce the ball a couple times, let me shoot for a couple minutes and get ready. I'll go make 3/4 of my free throws. No matter what age you are, you can go sit there and do that. And yes, that is true. And while it seems like someone will say, well, I can't go kick a 40-yard field goal, but I can probably kick an extra point. Or they'll say, I can't go dunk a basketball, but I can go make a free throw. Mm-hmm. And you'll say, yes, I bet you can. In your backyard, when you're not tired, when you don't have 20,000 plus people in an arena screaming at you, when you don't have big guys that have been banging on you for an hour and you're exhausted, and you don't have the pressure, the high stakes of a game. So it's not the same. And I don't want to minimize that. Like, I don't want to sit here and say, oh, well, it's easy. Everybody can do it. Well, no, not everybody can do it, because even at the professional level, there are guys who just struggle sometimes to make them, and it can get in your head. You can get the yips. And so I understand all that. And I think a failure to understand that is kind of a failure to understand the game in a way. But you cannot shoot it at this clip. This is untenable. This is the difference here, and I'll give you a few numbers here. Tennessee's won 10 games this season. In those 10 games, Tennessee's shooting 72.2% from the free throw line. Tennessee's lost 4 games this season. In those 4 games, Tennessee's shooting 57.7% from the free throw line, and that's including the Kansas game where they were 14-17 and lost. So that tells you just how bad it's been in those other 3 losses. It cost them the Syracuse game. I think it cost them the Arkansas game. I do. And that's interesting to me because Rick Barnes, I thought there was a chance, and this can show you how wrong we can be about things. I would have thought that right now Tennessee's percentage this season, 68.6%. I would have said, I guarantee you that's the lowest during the Rick Barnes era at Tennessee. And I was right about that. It is. But I would have thought in Rick's 40 years as a coach or so that it would have been one of the 3 or 4 worst that's ever happened in his time as a coach. And I was flat wrong about that because a bunch of Barnes, Texas teams did not shoot free throws well at all. I mean, they went, this is incredible. Early in his tenure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, in his first 7 seasons, 6 of those seasons they shot less than 70% from the free throw line. And he had one in 2009, 2010 that shot 63.3%, which is, why is that team not aiming for the square at that point? That's just rough. That's rough. Like, do the Rick Barry, throw it at the window, close your eyes, change your deodorant. I don't know what to tell you. Something's off when you're shooting that badly from the free throw line. Like, do you have an entire team full of Shaquille O'Neals? It's just wild to me. But since he got to Tennessee, there were many things that toward the end of his tenure at Texas he wanted to change. And I think we thought a lot of that was not have as many one-and-done guys, do some things a little different, and that's true. But I also think getting better at the free throw line was a big part of that. And the reason I think that is because the Rick Barnes free throw shooting at Tennessee, miles better than it almost ever was at Texas. I'm going to tell you the first years that he's been at Tennessee. I'm going to give you these numbers. 72.5, 72.9, 75.7, 75.4, 74.9, 74.6, 71.5, 70.8, 75.1, 74.5. That's not like elite team free throw shooting, but it is good team free throw shooting. You're anywhere around 75%, that's good. That dog will hunt. That's usually in the top 100 or top 80 or so nationally. That's fine. And especially when you get to the line that much, that's good. And if you're above 75%, dude, you're really in good shape there. But this season, it's down to 68.6%. And from now on, it's just games that are serious games, SEC games, postseason games, physical games. So maybe that goes up, but not by a lot. So I mean, this just you don't go into a season thinking that you're going to shoot this badly from the free throw line. It's got to change. Guys like Jalen Carey, it's just got to get better. Nate Ament, got to get better.
And that's what I was going to say, probably like the big men, that they get fouled a little bit more. Maybe, that's a problem for them at the line. But when Nate Ament went up there, those are two free throws. Those are free throws you think he knocks down because he can flat out shoot the ball.
Yes, it's got to be between his ears. Got to be, right?
That's all it is, because I don't think it's anything else. And who knows? Maybe it was because, all week he's been hearing, SEC basketball, this is different. I don't know. Maybe it psyched him out. I don't know, in the sense of mentally, because, he didn't play his best game against Arkansas. And on top of that, I know Rick Barnes moved him at the 4, which was different. And instead of playing him at the 3, he moved him at the 4. That's what he was saying in the presser. He moved him to the 4. So,
which I didn't think they were going to do much at all this season.
So again, maybe that was another thing that's mentally different. You've been playing at 3 the whole time, and now you got to move to the 4. Again, we look at his basketball as basketball, but there's so many more different mental things that's got to go on with it. So maybe he was just psyched out because that's all he heard, and not in a bad way. Maybe he was just overzealous and things of that nature. Because if you could see, when they opened the game on a 9-0 run, he was yelling, and it was exciting. It was exciting to him because I think he was just trying to prove, like anybody else will, just trying to prove that you belong, especially in a conference where people say you have to. This is one of the toughest conferences to play any sport. So that's what I think it is. I just think he was just psyched out for game 1. Now, I can't wait to see how he reacts in game 2 against Texas, because at the end of the day, you have to flush it no matter win or lose. You have to flush it and move on, because you just can't sit on one game for the rest of your life.
And, well, the biggest concern to me, I'm not, guys like Gillespie, Abram, Berg, they're going to make their free throws. And really, other than a couple of games where it was bad, Ament's still a 74% free throw shooter this season after a terrible day against Arkansas. I'm not, in the big picture, worried about him so much. The issue, and Akpar hadn't gotten to the line a ton. He's shooting 64%. I think he can do a little better than that, but that's not terrible. That's, for a big guy, that's not. You don't like it, and you're not going to accept it because we know he's got some touch, and I've always liked his free throw shooting form. I actually think by the end of the year he'll be shooting better than that. My problem right now, and it's a big one, is Carey. And the reason is, late in a game, when the other team is worn down, that's when Jalen Carey should be eating like a king, because he comes off the bench to start both halves, right? So he's a little fresher, you would think. He's not playing a ton of minutes in a lot of games. He's playing a good number of minutes. But he'd be playing more minutes if he wasn't shooting, it's hard to say this, 46.3% from the free throw line. Late in the game, you can't play him. Late in a close game, you cannot play him. That's where things are right now. And I would have thought in some ways, because Cade Phillips is a lot of things. He's not a good free throw shooter, never really has been. So I thought Carey would be, an offensive production, big upgrade down the stretch. And so, because Phillips is a guy that you couldn't really put on the floor late in close games a lot of times, unless there was foul trouble or other things, right? But right now, if Tennessee has like a 5-point lead or 4-point lead in the final 2 minutes of a game, every single possession, Jalen Carey's going to get fouled. Just hold his jersey in the backcourt. Just accidentally trip him. Just give him a little nudge. It's not going to be called intentional or anything.
Yeah.
But you know what you're doing, which is putting him on the free throw line, which is, hey, that's a win. That's a win for you, because right now the odds are, if it's a front of a 1-and-1, he's getting no points. If it's 2-shot foul, he's getting 1 point. And it's not like the largest number you'll ever see, but he's 19 of 41. Like, only Gillespie's taken more. Only Gillespie and Ament have taken more than him. That's because he's going to get fouled, and that's what Rick Barnes said on Saturday. He didn't say his name specifically, but he did say it affects, 1, the plays you call, and 2, the guys you have on the floor and where you're going with it. Because the end of a game that's when Carey ought to be feasting against guys who are physically tired because he is a horse. He is, 6'8", 270 basically, and just moves. He's a man mover. Sometimes length bothers him, but sometimes he just goes right through it if he gets his position early enough. And he goes up for rebounds, and guys just bounce off of him like he's a trampoline. But you can't have him out there. And so then that's probably why you're seeing Ament more at the 4, because to close games, you're going to have to see that because he's got to be out there with either Estrella or Akpara.
Do you think that will be Ament's natural position going out,
No.
going for the rest of the year, or going to the 4?
No, I think he's naturally a 3. And I think playing him at the 3 is better for him physically right now. Like, there will be some times that he gets blown by defensively, but I think if you put him at the 4, I think you run the risk. To me, he is an over-aggressive fouler. He just doesn't know how to play defense without fouling a lot of times yet. He's got those go-go gadget arms, and he reaches, and, he just doesn't know when you can get away with things and when you can't. And in the post, I think you're going to see a lot of, in the SEC, because a lot of times you do dribble drive stuff, 1 around 4, all these other things, but there's also going to be times where you just ISO him and dump the ball to whoever's guarding him or whoever he's guarding, clear out, and he's going to back you down. And I think he's going to be able to back you down to the rim and either score or get fouled. That's my concern there, is that, if they can drag Akpara away from there, because if Akpara's over there, you're fine, because he'll just go erase anything. But I think physically Ament at the 3 actually makes more sense to me, but if they're playing him at the 4, they know more about ball than I do. If they're doing it for a reason.
Yeah, I think he's a better 3 as well. I think the 4 is going to be – it can be difficult depending on the size. Like, if you got 2 big guys that like to play the post or stretch big, and I see Nate kind of struggling with it only because of his size, his weight. I mean, it's going to take time. No matter if he decides, after his freshman year, he wants to come back and bulk up and do stuff
no
like
chance.
that.
He gone.
But I'm just saying, But I would like to see that. But again, he's struggling. He will probably struggle against the 4s a lot because they're just bigger than him. And if they got to switch him to a 5, not Tennessee switch him to a 5. If they pick and roll and he's matched up with a 5, I don't like that. I don't like that move either. But again, I just think Nate. I think Nate is a tall, lengthy guy that can play, and he does give effort. He doesn't let his size.
He's playing.
Yeah, he doesn't let that determine the factor of if you're going to score or not. And I like that about Nate. But I just think that him playing at the 4 against some big guys is going to be problems because, one, that could put Nate in foul trouble very early, and then 2, if he's in foul trouble, he has no way of getting his feet under him, because I think he's a guy that the more the game goes on, the more he got a feel for it.
And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Like, and it's a completely side issue before we talk about Amari Evans, but I think with both Ament and Gillespie, they get to 4 fouls much more often than I think anybody over there should be comfortable with. They are too important to the team offensively to get cheap fouls. Mm-hmm. And I know this goes against everything a basketball player is ever taught from a young age, and I know that Rick Barnes has benched guys for much less. But I think even Rick Barnes would tell you, begrudgingly, but I think he would tell you that there are times where if it's one-on-one in transition and your name is Jacoby Gillespie or Nate Ament, get out of the way. Give them the 2 points. Because if you're going to foul them in a shooting foul, more often than not, at least 1 point's getting scored, and maybe 2 points are. And I get that Rick Barnes does not do the whole Matador thing, right? He just doesn't do it. But there are times where you just got to let him go. Like, you just have to.
That's frustrating because I feel like with Rick Barnes' system, he doesn't like to give up easy points.
Oh, no, not at all.
Right? So I think that's kind of frustrating because if you just – I'm not saying you're wrong, but if you're just letting him blow by and get 2 points, I think that's more frustrating than the foul.
Yeah, I mean –
if you're a defensive guy.
For me, it's like there are situations I think it's about sort of situational understanding. Like if a guy gets by you in transition, be really careful with a chase down block try. Don't get your body anywhere near his. If you want to get your body a little bit away and take a wild swing up at the air, that's fine.
Yeah.
Try to get the ball, but don't, because everybody in this era has grown up watching clips of those NBA players who are so good at exaggerating contact and getting the foul every time. And officials at the college level, I just fundamentally do not trust enough to get that right. Because in the NBA, right, there's different times where, like, certain guys are going to get certain calls. That's just, it is what it is. Unless they have to go to review and it's on film and then they go, okay, we got to call this. There's guys they don't want to call them on. We all know this. Whatever. It's how the game is played. But in college, they have no understanding of that. So, like, whereas if they played in the NBA and they were as important as they are to, like, their college teams, Gillespie and Ament would be called for less fouls than they get called for. But this is college, so you're gonna get called. And they just, to me, it's the pointless fouls that are the ones where you want to just, grab somebody by the shoulders and say, you get just 5 of these, right?
Yeah.
They are not like fouls in the first minute of a basketball game. If I'm a coach, they drive me insane. I'm just sitting here as a reporter, no stake in the game. And it drives me insane when guys do that. Pick up like a silly reach or like just a block on a block out that just absolutely you didn't have to do. And it's like, for what? Like, what was that for? And what did you gain from it? And how did that help your team in any way? And they got to stop doing that. They're in foul trouble too often. That's got to change. But what's funny is, the perfect person to transition to when you're talking about foul trouble is Amari Evans, who earlier this season did foul out playing 7 minutes in a game. 7 minutes, 5 fouls. It was chef's kiss. It was remarkable. But that young man is a ball player.
Yeah.
He is a Rick Barnes ball player because that is a 6'5", multi-year, two-way guard who is efficient at times offensively, very efficient, growing his game offensively, and is a maniac out there on defense. And Tennessee's always had some guys like this. And this is one of them. And they said when they were recruiting this kid, like, this is a Rick Barnes kid if I've ever seen one. Multiple people I know in the game who are analysts said that, either in those exact words or close to them. And they said him at Tennessee is about the most perfect fit that I can imagine because he's obsessed with his defense. He takes pride in it, and he plays hard, and he is coachable, but he does have some offensive game. And he was really, really good in that game at Arkansas. Didn't miss a shot, was all over the place. I think 7-7 shooting. Not many SEC players, freshmen in the past 20 years, have done that. And I kind of like that he's still not starting. I like that energy kind of off the bench. Plus, I think if we're being honest, we probably need to see a little bit more body of work before we start assuming, hey, he's already this good. But he's got a lot of potential, man. There's a lot to like about this kid.
Yeah, I like him because he does the dirty work. I like that he does the dirty work. I like that he gets to the loose balls. I think one play that's not going to show up on the stat sheet is, I think, Arkansas. He went over there and caused a jump ball, and it was a Tennessee possession after the jump ball. Like, he does things that's high IQ,
Yep.
Gets the easy buckets in transition, makes the right cuts, the right reads. He could come off of a screen, get to a layup, hit a floater. Shooting wise, I'm not really sure yet. Like, if but he goes 7 for 7 from the field. But can he shoot the jumper, the mid range to the 3-point? I don't know really, but I know that he can get to the basket and create his own shot. He what I like about him is that his role, he probably can be a little bit bigger than what the role that he has right now, but he's not afraid to accept the role that he has right now because that's what the team needs. And him being the guy that can do all the dirty work per se and make plays is something that the Vols really need. So I like Amari Evans, like you said. Is he a Rick Barnes player? For sure. I just think that the small things that doesn't show up on the stat sheet is really what makes Amari Evans dangerous, and that's going to be needed as well as when tournament time comes, because those extra effort plays is going to make a difference in those ball games. So, yeah, Evans really has showed out the last few games for sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to do some math now. This is fun. I always love when we do math live on the air because I forgot to do it beforehand, or in this case, just did not think to look this up. But let's see here. 1 and 3 is 4. 4 and 3 is 7. 7 and 5 is 12. 12 and 7 is 19. Then we got 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 6, 11. 11 plus 6, 17. And then 24. Ainsley, can you look up what 19 divided by 24 is? Because it's a pretty high number.
Look at this. Math on
All
the
right,
spot.
it looks like it's about 0.8.
So about 0.8, what is it? 0.8.
It's 0.7916.
There you go. 79.2%, rounding up. That's what he is shooting from the floor since the start of December. 1 of 2, 3 of 3, 3 of 6, 5 of 6, 7 of 7. And from 3, this will be a lot easier to do. A lot easier to do. From 3, he's 2, 3, 4 of 6. That's 66.7%. So he's taking the shots that he absolutely needs to be taking. And he's putting up. He's getting rebounds every time he's out there. Not a ton, but he's getting some.
Love it.
And some assists, some steals, some blocks.
I love it.
There's a lot to like about this kid. And I think it's just easy after an Arkansas game to sit there and say, man, Ament had a rough patch there. And you forget to say, yeah, this Evans kid, he's pretty good.
Yeah.
He's pretty good. He's also a freshman, right? And so I think you'll still see some moments of Troy Henderson this season at times where he'll do some stuff. So he's going to have to, because they can't ask Jacoby Gillespie to play 40 minutes or 38 minutes every game. And if you do that, even if you wanted to do that, he's going to foul out a couple times if you do that, because he can't stop getting some fouls that he shouldn't be getting. So it's hard to kind of bank on that happening. So, but this Evans kid, man, in a weekend that was not great for Tennessee in most ways, a lot of frustrating things, a lot of obviously missed free throws, some defensive lapses, some scouting report mistakes. And again, Arkansas's got a couple freshmen who are dudes. John Calipari is always going to have a couple freshmen who are first-round pick type guys. He just is. And you got to go guard them. And they're not always going to guard you, but you got to guard them. You got to come see them when you're on defense. And Tennessee just didn't meet that challenge, didn't play well enough, and you know it's a lost opportunity because it's a long SEC season. It's 18 games, right? But that's a game on the road. You got a chance to win it. Really helps you a lot if you win it. That's maybe the difference in a seed line or so come tournament time, like a game like that could be. And so it also just gives you a little bit more leeway if you were to slip up at home at some point. Because it's hard on the road in this league. And you're always going to lose some on the road. But when you have a chance to win one and you don't, it's just hard to see that team kind of being like a conference champion by the end of the season, because you know you're going to have tough ones at home, right? And if you're Tennessee this season, you know, you got Kentucky twice, you got Vandy twice, and Vandy's the highest ranked team in the league right now. Mm-hmm. What a year their athletic department is having. Women's hoops, men's hoops, football. I mean, tip of the cap. They've had a heck of a year and done a great job as a department. But there's just going to be some tough games in there. There's going to be some times in there where you play pretty well and you lose.
Yeah. And
so to have a game where you didn't have to play that great and you could have won and you just kind of flub your lines, those sting.
They really do. Because like we just talked about, and this is a team that Arkansas is going to be in a tournament. They're going to be
they're good.
Yeah, they're going to be there in March. They're going to be there in February when you got to hopefully win your conference. They're going to be there. So it's not like you're not going to see them again. You're going to have a chance to lick your wounds, but at the same time, you got to make sure that you're doing everything you can to prepare for those moments, because like we talked about, Amari Evans is playing well. Troy Henderson, he didn't see the floor at all What would he look like coming down in the stretch? We'll see tomorrow if he gets some playing time in Texas. I think he could be something special for him because in the sense of Troy, I'm not sure if he's a great scorer either, but I feel like with Jacoby off the ball a little bit more and so much of Nate off the ball, and if Troy could come and just get them to their spots, I think that would be perfect.
Yeah, because it's got either Berger or Henderson's got to give you something. Because Amari Abram has played point guard in his career.
Yeah,
he can do that.
But Amari gives me like he can just come off the screen and shoot instead of him just facilitating. I like Amari
and then be aggressive defensively.
Yeah, I like that about Amari. Tennessee just has to find somebody at the one that could just facilitate, and scoring points should be the last thing on their mind. They can do it
unless you're Jacoby, because you got to score.
Yeah, Jacoby, but I like Jacoby at the two, only for the simple fact that I don't want him to look to pass first. I think Jacoby should score first.
Yes,
and then try to facilitate. And that's why I don't really like him at the one. I think they should, if they find somebody that could really play that one position very well, I think Tennessee is like, if not the most dangerous, then one of the most dangerous teams in the country.
I think there is a world where that could happen, and that's where I think people, again, like, I don't want to give too much credence to it, but the people who just overreact to every single time Tennessee ever loses a basketball game. I get it. Saturday was frustrating. We've spent 40 minutes so far talking about how frustrating it was. It was. But every loss does not need to be a referendum on the most successful stretch in the program's history. Like, let's keep perspective on these things, right? And so that's why I don't even want to give the vocal minority there too much credence, although I will say that group of people is larger than it should be, in my opinion. I don't want to tell anybody else how to feel, but I'll tell you what I feel, and what I feel is that there are too many people in that group. So that it's just a little mind-boggling. And it's gone back several coaches at Tennessee, too. I just don't always quite understand why it gets as negative as it does at times with basketball. I don't get it. But it's not football. You're going to lose some games. But regardless, hey, they are still ranked. There was a question. Some people thought, will they stay in there? They did. So that's 89 consecutive weeks that they've been in the AP poll, which is the longest active streak in the country. This week, a couple more tough games. They all are tough, basically, in this league. You get Texas at home Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. Got to hold serve at home. Got to do it. And we'll see what the crowd looks like at 9 p.m., but at least the young people will be there, right? I don't know. Some of the I mean, if I got, I know some people who are a little older who are complaining about, like, even watching it on TV, let alone getting them to drive through traffic to get there to the game.
I'm going to count tomorrow. I want
the average age, like how many olds in here?
I'm going to look around when the Star Spangled Banner come on. I'm going to look around and see how many young to old ratio.
Yeah, it's going to be maybe a bit skewed from what it normally is. And then Saturday, you are going on the road to face the defending national champion, Florida Gators. A couple good things about that. One, it's a noon game, not a night game. That does help a little. For Tennessee's sake, on the road, you'd rather play a nooner all day than play a night game on the road, any sport, any league. And you're also playing a Florida team that's kind of up and down, hadn't quite figured out what's going on yet. But you know what? Florida also did a lot of that last year and then eventually got going and did go in the national championship. So, and they're probably pretty angry right now because say what you will about the guy, he can coach. Say what you will about anything else, guy can coach. And he's got some players on that team. So we'll see. It's a big week for Tennessee. And if they lose one or both of those games, if they lose both, they're definitely falling out of the poll. But if they went 1-1, I think they'd cling on to a spot, but it would be a near-run thing, as they say. We do need to talk some portal before we get out of here because it has been not a hectic in terms of volume yet, but certainly at Tennessee, you've had a lot of guys step into the portal and they're gone. And Max Gilbert is going to Arkansas.
Yeah.
So Arkansas, which hosts Tennessee next season, go ahead and pin in that one, 10-10-26. That game comes down to a late kick. And Max Gilbert, sometimes the stories just write themselves, don't they? Either make or miss, that story would just write itself. So football gods, please give us that. Please, journalism gods. Now, if you're the football gods in your Tennessee, you want to win the game by a lot. But the journalism gods are saying, let's have that game come down to a kick one way or the other with him. That would, or whoever's replacing him at Tennessee making a kick or something, or missing a kick. One of those teams
Got to do something.
come down to a kick at the end, and then that story will write itself, and that'll be a little bit less work for us to do that day because that will take care of itself. But Tennessee has had a bunch of those guys step into the portal. None of them shocking. We talked about that last week. Don't need to rehash it. But some additions. You knew Tennessee was going to have to reinforce the secondary. That was clear, right? Tennessee's looking at quarterbacks too. Tennessee's looking everywhere. There's not a position where Tennessee's like, we ain't looking. They're at least window shopping at every spot on the field because you have to in this era, especially you lose. Hey, even if some of them are walk-ons, you lose 19 or so guys. Yeah, you're going to have to make replacements. That's how it goes. But they did get an addition from the Kansas State University. We decided we got for sure that it's Quay.
Quay.
Yes, Tennessee has added a safety who is, I think, a pretty solid player. Getting a player of this caliber, I think Quay Moss he's a well-traveled guy. Now this would be his fourth school in 4 years, I believe. That's not unusual in this era, and you get every step of the way. You kind of get why he's made some of the decisions. I guess that he's made, but these are things that make sense to you. But this is a good, solid safety who at least has one interception this season that would absolutely be one of the top 2 or 3 plays a Tennessee defensive player made all year. That pick he had against a former quarterback down there at UCF. You'd notice that. Like that was a nice play, that pick down the sideline. If you haven't seen it, go Google it. But a guy they need, and then they're trying to add some more. Lyric Rawls, and I did look it up. It is Lyric Rawls from Kansas, who has started his career at Oklahoma State. Maybe a little bit of Jim Knowles recruiting him there back in the day. A little connection there. Played really well for Kansas this season. Yeah. He's a guy that's visiting. And then another guy, Jaquez White, the corner from Troy, who started his career at Division II Washburn College. And I was today years old, Elijah, when I earned. You know what their nickname is? What? Did you hear me say it earlier? Mm-mm. Washburn is the Ichabods.
What kind of mascot is that?
Some kind of bird, perhaps a crane.
Ichabods?
Ichabods.
I never heard this before.
I'm going to make sure about that because I just think Ichabod crane, and I'm like, surely that's where it came from, right? But yes, I think they are, let's see. Ichabod, what is an Ichabod?
Yeah, that sound like a robot. Sound like a bot.
It's a thing. Whatever it is, that's what Washburn College is. And that's where he was for a couple years. Then he goes to Troy, has a really nice year at Troy. I looked it up earlier. 67 tackles, 3 picks, 3.5 TFLs, and a sack. At corner, that's a good season. Yeah. And he's got some solid size to him. I like him. And then, Lyric Rawls, 73 tackles, a pick. And I think PFF had him like around a 71 as a grade for this season. So
Lyric Rawls officially signed?
No. I mean, I think he's visiting tomorrow. Okay. On Tuesday as we're recording this. I think that's when the plan is. Now, of course, we laugh all the time. Things happen between 3 and 4 or just after 4 every single day because, of course, they do. So things have a way of, as soon as we're done with the show, they change. And then by the time you upload it, you're like, oh, well, that's already a little old. Hey, we need some more. I guess we got to keep it a little less current at times, right? Do some more evergreen content. But, yeah, I think you see pretty clearly here. And Tennessee's looking at a lot of different places, but this is a rebuilt secondary, and it had to be.
Yeah, and what I like about Quay is he gives me he can play safety, play the star position. Mm-hmm. And you know how Tennessee like to use those guys with Jalen McMurray, and then when they had Boot Carter, they could move him around. Yep. So Quay, I think if he wants to get his numbers up and get more recognition, he came to a good spot, especially how they use their defensive backs. Now, I'm not sure how Jim Knowles is going to do it. Is it going to be similar to what Tim Banks had, or is it going to be a different way to do it with the star? But it's going to be a way that he's going to compete, and he's going to try to earn that spot for the job. And I think, once that spot is earned, I think he's going to be like one of those guys that we're going to be like, this was really a great move for Tennessee.
It's interesting because, Jim Knowles, and this is obviously on the line of scrimmage, but Jim Knowles was one of the first people to use the Leo, which is, or call it that, right? You had the coordinator for the Seahawks, and then you had Jim Knowles, were a couple of the first people to kind of do the whole Leo edge thing, right? That's what they call the, D-end, half linebacker, edge rusher guy. But even though Tim Banks also called them Leos, he did not mind that Leo being a little bit thinner, whereas I think Knowles likes maybe a little bit more size on that position. Not a ton, but there's guys like James Pierce who I don't care what your size is. You can do anything. You're James Pierce, right? By the way, congratulations to him, 10.5 sacks this season.
Amazing.
I don't think he's going to win Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to come second behind that linebacker for the Browns for Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Really?
Yeah, I think he's the second betting favorite right now. The Browns linebacker, Schlesinger, he's at the top of the spot.
Yeah, I know because I know James set the franchise record, and I don't know, man, because it's easy to play alongside Myles Garrett when you're not seeing as much attention as James was seeing.
Oh, there's no question about that. There's no question about that, and it still makes me laugh that 25 teams said nah about Pierce. Now I get why. He's a little immature. Be a little bit. He's a dancing cactus. You got to watch out. He'll prick you occasionally. He's just kind of how he is. But not to the point where I'm like, I wouldn't spend money on you because you know what? I'd watch the film and be like, yep, I'll work with that. Yeah. What, are you going to be a little bit late to a meeting sometimes? Don't like that, but I like that film. So, and you were doing this despite the effort maybe not always being great. Oh, yeah, I'll take you. Yeah, maybe we can get effort out of you, pay you a lot, and then boom, you'll be even better. So, yeah, that thing has worked out the way that it should have. But and he'll get his next contract will be a pretty big one at some point if he stays healthy and behaves himself. But basically they both use, because everyone has to now. Jim Knowles uses a star. Tim Banks uses a star. Now, whether he calls it a star, I honestly don't know. I need to look that up. But they both called Leos and used them a little bit differently. So to your point, he's absolutely going to use that position, that nickel spot, whatever they call it, whatever they do. It's going to be important because in this day and age, it's one of the most important spots on the field.
I agree because especially with a lot of 11 personnels, we don't see a lot of 2 tight end personnel.
Nope, not a lot.
So we see a lot of 3. So we see 3 receivers and probably 1 tight end and things of that nature because most of the snaps that are being taken are either in shotgun or they're in a pistol. So if you're not really under center, then you really don't have 2 tight ends in your sets. I mean, some traditional offers still run it, like Georgia. Georgia runs it a lot, actually, with a 2 tight end set. So, again, back to but
because they always have a bunch. Because Georgia's always had really good tight ends. The entire time I've covered the SEC, they've had good tight ends.
They have some dudes. I mean, Brock Bowers, and then last year one guy.
Yeah, but you go back to like McMichael and a bunch of those guys. They've always had them, man. They've always had tight ends. Always, every year they got dudes who can play at that spot.
And I agree. So that's
Delp gave Tennessee problems. They've always had those guys.
And that's why I think the star comes in and fits because, like I said, with the
Benjamin Watson, another one.
Benjamin Watson came from Georgia.
Georgia tight end. Yep.
I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that.
All of them. Yeah, they're going to use 2 tight ends because they always got a couple that are really, really good, right? So you just coach to your personnel, but yeah, I mean, I think it's an important thing, and Tennessee is going to rebuild that secondary. I mean, you would say that maybe Farouk comes back as a starter. Obviously, Ty Redmond comes back as a starter, but I mean, we'll see. They gotta go get some guys, right?
Oh yeah, it's not over. I mean, with that defensive staff that came in, they're gonna fill some holes. They're gonna get the D line's gonna look different. The second level with the linebackers gonna look different, and that secondary is gonna look different. Everything's gonna look a little different. We got to learn some names on this offseason for sure.
Yeah, and some of them are going to be names that we already know because some of them I still think they're going to go. A lot of these guys, I'm not going to call it like bargain shopping, but they're getting some guys who are good players, but they're not exactly paying the top dollar for them. I think they'll end up getting a couple of dudes on defense who they will pay significantly to get. So there'll be names that and we already know some of those guys that Tennessee's recruiting. A couple of them already know Jim Knowles from his time at Penn State. So yeah, there and maybe even some Ohio State guys at some point too. We will see.
Now you want to know something crazy?
Can you tell it to me in a minute?
I can. Josh Heupel, since he's been here, unless Joey Aguilar comes back, has never had the same quarterback under center for 2 years in a row.
Let's see, 1, 2. That's a good point. I hadn't thought about it that way, but you're right. No, wait, did Hooker? Hooker had 2, didn't he?
He had 2, but remember, what's name was the starter?
Milton at the beginning of the year. You're right. That's right. That's a good point. That's a good point, Elijah. We got a lot more, man. What a fun week. Like, I didn't even get to everything on this list today. That's how many things were on this list today. Sometimes we walk in here and the notepad's empty. Today, we did not get to everything on it. So that's going to give us a head start for Tuesday. We're going to preview some of that Texas-Tennessee basketball action tomorrow night. Who knows what's going to happen in the portal in the next 23 hours, but we'll definitely have new news at that point, and whatever it is, we'll share it with you. Thank you, Miss Ainsley. Thank you, Elijah. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. We'll see all of you in about 23 hours.